Hi, welcome to the We Are West Grand Talk Show. Today I have with me Mrs. Winter and Mrs. Thomson, who are the dynamic duo of third grade in West Grand. So thank you both for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess just to kind of start off, if you would, for our viewers who don't know you, maybe introduce yourselves a little bit, talk a little bit about what you do, what excites you about third grade, those kinds of things.
Okay, this is my first year in third grade and my 7th year teaching overall. And so far I've been loving third grade. It might be my new favorite grade. The independence that I see these kids they're able to do a lot more on their own, so I feel like we can go a lot deeper in some of the learning. So I've been in primary land for the last 6 years, so this has been a new and exciting endeavor for me.
This is my 15th year, all of them at West Grand, most of them in third grade, and I love third grade because they're funny. They're finding their humor, they're starting to get my humor, and on top of all the things Bree said, their independence and their work ethic, but also that they're funny and fun to be around.
Oh, that's great. So talk a little bit more about teaching third grade, because it is certainly, well, you could make an argument that every grade is just so unique. But specifically for third grade, since that's what we're talking about today, what are the things from your perspective that make them, I guess, a little bit different? What are the things that maybe you would describe as a normal day in third grade, if such a thing exists? It probably doesn't, but I guess, yeah, just kind of talk about that a little bit, and maybe just, you two work extremely well together, so maybe kind of elaborate on what the two of you do.
Okay. Third grade, kind of a pivotal year. They're kind of coming from primary land, and then they're coming and this is their first introduction to upper elementary and testing and a lot of the expectations that come along with that. So it's kind of a high expectation year, and it's a big building and growing year for kids. I feel like sometimes a lot of the growth that they have happens in third grade. It's amazing, maturity-wise and academically. So I feel like a lot of what we do is just building on all of those changes that they're having to go through as far as from lower elementary to upper elementary.
Yeah, and I'll say I taught second the last 2 years, so I've gone with these kids up to third grade, and I tell them all the time, we go at a faster pace. We're moving right along, and I have to remind myself that they are so capable of doing that, because sometimes I want to slow us down, but they can rise to the challenge. And so I've noticed that as a huge leap in third grade. We can go a lot faster and they can keep up. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting. A normal day for us looks like we start with morning meeting, mm-hmm. and then we do reading groups, but then we do combine a lot. We combine for math every day, which we didn't start the year doing that, but then we noticed we have pretty small class sizes, so we figured with combining those kiddos, and they work really well together, we get a lot more class participation, and it feels more smooth. The lessons go really well, and we're always on the same page because of it. So we do math together.
We team teach math together, and then we team teach a lot of our reading PBL time together as well, so that our kids are kind of always on the same page there.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful that you guys do that, because in a lot of schools and probably in a lot of grades, there are parents who, I really want my kid to have, this teacher, or I really want my kid to have that teacher. Now, I mean, honestly, our kids are blessed to have either of you, but to have both of you together, I just think that's an amazing thing. So I think that's really cool. So we're standing in front of your project-based learning board. And I know that recently, because I got to participate in it, the two of you had a project-based unit that you did. Yes. Mm-hmm. With your students, and I could probably talk a lot about it because, again, I got to be a part of it, but it was your show. So maybe share with our viewers a little bit, kind of what was the idea behind it? How did you come up with that idea? Maybe even talk a little bit about the difference in the preparation that goes into planning that compared to how you would have approached it without project-based learning.
Okay. Well, so in years past, third grade, they've always done like a geography regions unit. So we took that unit and we tweaked it we extended it really because we wanted to incorporate a lot of our standards into one project, and we did. We were able to use financial literacy standards and social studies standards, communication standards, all in one big project.
Yeah.
So what it was we had our kids become travel agents, and we had clients. Dr. Peppard was a client, and our clients came and met with our travel agents and told them a vacation that they would like to go on, and then our travel agents would then put a package together for them. So it was from beginning to end, it was probably 2.5 months, but there was a lot of groundwork laid with them understanding the regions of the U.S. and just getting that foundational knowledge down to then do the project with our clients.
And I feel like day to day within the project was a little bit more organic because we would well, we thought we had it planned out really, really well. And then we got into it and needed to tweak some things. So, and then sometimes there were things that we noticed we needed to do mini lessons on, like subtracting across zeros. So the kids they guided us in what we would need to teach from day to day because it was very much their needs based. Yeah.
So in a way, I guess what I'm hearing you say, Nellie, is that it kind of gave you an opportunity maybe to differentiate a little bit, kind of in a natural way.
Yeah.
Within the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the kids that I got to work with, the ones that were my travel agents, they really had a fantastic time with it. They learned a lot about it. They were even catching me in the hallway and telling me little stories about, hey, I asked to go to Michigan and I wanted to go on a train. But what the kids found was you can't go directly to where I wanted to go on a train. So one of the days, one of the kids caught me and said, "We're going to have to get you a rental car." And it was so exciting to see the ownership that the kids took of their learning of the whole project. And it's certainly a different way of going about things. But it's what it really is, at least the way I see it, is it's just a different instructional strategy. I think most likely, and maybe you guys can elaborate on this, you probably put a little bit more work on the front end of that. And then, like you said, the kids kind of guide you as you go through. But what does it look like, or how does that feel with that work on the front end compared to what you would normally do?
It was heavy. I felt
like
it was time intensive.
Well, and this was our first year doing it, so I feel like
that's true. You already have it.
Yeah.
I feel like this year took more time for us than it will in the future. Yeah. But because we spent so much time at the beginning, we were able, once we got going, it alleviated some of that, and it wasn't as much us as it was them.
It was, yeah.
So I will say that with PBL, I think that is something that you see in most PBL projects, is there's a lot up front, but then as you go, it kind of, you relinquish control and they take over. Yeah.
So maybe a similar amount of prep time, just you put most of it up here, and then as it goes through, then it's maybe a little bit of read and react as you go through, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, an interesting thing, and I didn't put it on our question sheet, but I want to go ahead and talk about this, or actually I want to ask you about it so you guys can talk about it. The day of the final presentations, and actually the day that the kids made the final presentations to the clients, I noticed when I came in, all the boys were wearing ties. And I thought that was really an interesting thing. And then I learned a little bit more about how they learned to use or to tie their ties. So would you guys maybe talk about that?
Yeah, Melissa, just in conversation, Melissa at the high school, we were talking about how it would be really cool to have some high school kids come down and teach our elementary school boys how to tie a tie. And so she was awesome. She just kind of took the ball and ran with it and said, okay, I'll send 4 down on Monday. And so we had 4 high school boys come down, and they each probably had 10 ties between all of them, and they let each kid choose a tie and showed the boys in our classrooms how to tie the tie. And our boys loved it. They wanted to wear those ties all the time, and they remembered too, because that was couple weeks before the presentation. And so.
Oh, really? I thought it was the day of.
Nope.
Oh,
No.
wow. That's great, because
Yeah.
they did a wonderful job tying their ties.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
We had a couple little knots in
Yeah.
there, but
Sure.
interesting knots, but that's okay.
Yeah, we try teaching some of those life skills. Like even when the clients would come, we wanted our travel agents to go shake their hands and introduce themselves and do those.
Look them in the eye when you're
Yes.
talking to them and not just.
Yeah.
They did a great job with that. When I came for the initial meeting and then of course had to schedule the second meeting, they walked me out to the board and, let's choose a time for you and let's get you on the schedule and that kind of stuff. And they really, it was exciting. What I saw were kids that really had a lot of engagement in what they were trying and what they were supposed to learn.
Yeah.
And they really knew what they were supposed to learn. So I think that was great.
Yeah.
So as we go forward, where are we? We're in February already, and which is really hard to believe. But anyway, so as we go forward, there probably are some other things you're looking forward to as we get into the latter part of the school year. I can't imagine you're going to tell me you're excited about testing coming up, but I'm sure there's something that maybe you guys are looking forward to, or that your kids are looking forward to here in these remaining few months.
We're really excited for a unit that we have at the end of the year, like April and May. We're doing a habitat unit, and it's a schoolyard habitat unit where they'll get to pick an animal native to our area and build or design something that can improve their habitat here by the school. So we're really looking forward to that. It's still kind of in the beginning planning stages, but it's going to be a big fun project for them.
Because we've done this big PBL with the travel agency, we feel like they kind of understand that collaborative piece, and I think it'll go pretty smoothly just because they have experienced a big project like this in this format.
And even when we're not doing a PBL unit, we still combine a lot of the elements of PBL in what we're doing, just so that we can keep that element of consistency too. Whether it's the driving question, the learning targets, what we know, what we need to know. So even if we're not doing a PBL unit, we're still kind of keeping that thread.
Right.
So you pointing at the board and that kind of thing made me think of just one other thing I wanted to ask about, and that's the classroom ambassadors. I know one of the things that we want to see, and one of the reasons that I was really amped about bringing project-based learning to our district was that development of agency for our students. We talk about that ownership and some of those kinds of things. So can you talk a little bit about classroom ambassadors?
Yeah. We haven't done as much of it since before Christmas, but the kids get to be an ambassador for a week, and that means that they get to introduce themselves to anybody who comes into our classroom or anybody who visits the school, and that way they get to be the ones who are welcoming, and they're talking about our school, and they're taking more ownership for what we have going on. And it's just another way to reinforce that. Shaking hands, looking at people, talking with a clear voice, and getting them, maybe putting them in awkward situations that they don't always like to be in, but they're good for them.
Yeah, that's a great way for them to learn. There's no question about that. So, well, Bree, Nellie, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks
it was
for
great
having us.
having you guys. And as always, we are West Grand.